And then we got these crazy ideas like, we should bring in like a big speaker and speak to the pastors and just really like try to reach the city, because we had this monster vision of like really impacting and transforming Mexico City, and to the point that everybody would have someone who cared for them. The poor would be helped. And so Rick Warren had this talk that he was doing at the time called the Peace Plan. And Rick Warren is a pastor out in California. He wrote The Purpose-Driven Life, the second best-selling book in the history of the world, second only to the Bible. I think it sold over 40 million copies. So anyway, so we went up to meet with Rick Warren at Saddleback in California. One of my staff and I convinced him to come to Mexico City, rented an auditorium, and our idea was to have 4,000 or 3,000 pastors come to this. And sure enough, I mean, it was just packed. We had 3,000 pastors. It was an amazing event. The reason I mention this, because it really leads into like how did I get it to where I'm at with where I'm working with the poor? Because Rick Warren, like as a thank you, he gave me like a reception where it's like, invite anybody you want to, and I'll meet with them, and we'll hang out for the evening. And so I did that, and I invited this lady who was running for Congress. You're just like inviting everybody. It's like everybody wants to go and meet this guy apparently. And so I invited this lady, and she was running for the Congress, and she was running on an anti-human trafficking platform. And I had seen, like as I was working around the city, I saw human trafficking. It was undeniable. I felt like the Mexican people were turning their back to it. Mexico City is an amazing, modern city, but it's also amazingly dangerous and really run down in some areas and underdeveloped in some areas. And I felt like people were ignoring the fact that little girls were being trafficked. And I'm like, I want to help these kids. And so actually, this lady was elected to the Congress. And so I guess I impressed her because I invited her to this event. Well, she invited me to be a part of her commission to end human trafficking in the Congress. So I spent 4 years working with her and being on commissions in the Congress. And meanwhile, I was doing other evangelism things around the cities, but I was like always going to like these amazing meetings, meeting these amazing people, and being a part of like trying to bring this country to a point where they will pass federal legislation to make human trafficking a federal offense. Because at that point, when we first started working in this whole arena, 11 people in Mexico in the history of the country had ever been prosecuted for human trafficking. And look at you see the things in the news that happen coming up out of Mexico. They have 20,000 victims a year. And the bad guys were getting away. And so our commission, we just brought it up to the surface. And the second thing that happened during that time, I was contacted by a group of filmmakers, and they had a vision to make a movie, a documentary, to tell the world what is human trafficking and what can we do about it. And they were coming out of a Youth with a Mission training school, and I was hosting Youth with a Mission. I had left Campus Crusade and was doing more independent ministry at that point, just working against trafficking and volunteering with Youth with a Mission for a couple of years. They had a huge outreach. And these kids came in, and they were just totally optimistic, like, we're going to expose human trafficking. And they were willing to go to the places that nobody was willing to go. They were willing to go and take footage and interview victims and people like that. And then they put, after they finished their movie, they spent a year after they finished filming, they spent a year putting it together. And then they released it, and it was amazing. It's online today if you want to watch it. It's called Volviendo. It's on YouTube now. It's in public domain. But when this was first released, it had an immediate effect. People got a hold of this and started taking it around to the villages, showing people and parents, this is trafficking. This is happening in Mexico City. And just to make people aware, religious workers started using it, churches. We had whole sections of Mexico City have public showings, and they would order thousands of copies of the movie and just give them away at schools for at-risk kids. And that was a huge deal. Volviendo was awarded with a couple international awards, which was really a cool thing. I just posted like one of the things on Facebook today. But they were given the MTV International Award for the best human trafficking video of the year, and then also the UNICEF International Award, which is like crazy. These aren't normally organizations that I associate with it, and they were like awarding us for this video that we made, and that just opened up so many doors and like started the conversation to a point that legislation was passed to make trafficking a federal crime. So for the first time, when someone was caught trafficking in Mexico, they could be arrested and held there until they were prosecuted, instead of them always just getting away with some, whenever it came up, there would be nobody alive to witness or anything like that. So